Alright guys, it's time to talk about the #1 question on the minds of artists all across the world. And that question is, come on, you know what it is. Say it with me.
What pen do you use?
Which is basically the same thing as asking, what's the best drawing pen? I mean, is it this one, a digital pen, or is it, maybe a Micron, or maybe it's the Pentel brush pen, the very beloved pen that many people use, or who knows, maybe even a Bic pen? What do you think? I'm here to tell you that the answer is yes. Now, before the end of the video, I will share with you some of my favorite pens, but really the answer is yes. It doesn't matter which one you use.
Another way to answer it is the one that's closest to you.
You can make beautiful art with the most simplest of pens. There are so many creators out there who use all different materials, and no matter if you're good at making art, it doesn't matter what tool you actually use, but no matter what you use, in the hand of a skillful artist, skillful art will come out. Now, I'm not trying to be dismissive of people and the question that they ask. They ask it for a reason. I've asked the question before as well. It's very easy to watch a YouTube video and see somebody doing some amazing artwork and be like, that is so cool. Like, how did they do that? What pen are they using? Like, it's very natural, because you feel like that the results they're getting is because of the tool they're using. It's easy to think that. So I'm not trying to harp on you if you're feeling that way, and I'm not trying to make anybody feel inadequate. The truth is, we all need to get better at our craft, and when we look at other artists, a lot of times we compare ourselves to them instead of comparing ourselves to our own progress, and that's really kind of what's at the heart of this question. For all of us, the most important tool that we could possibly have and use, and I know it sounds cheesy, but it's the mind. Having a good grasp on the fundamentals will go much farther than us having the perfect tool. In comic books, Jim Lee is known as one of the most celebrated artists, one that has pretty much single-handedly influenced the style of a whole industry at one point in comic book history. And I've seen that guy do more with a Sharpie than I can do with the most sophisticated pen that I own. One of my favorite YouTube artists, his name is Kesh, you guys probably have heard of him, and one of his primary tools that he loves to use is a Bic pen. The point is that the only thing you really truly need to make a mark is anything that makes a mark. Focus on learning the principles of art and just spending a lot of time working on that, working on the fundamentals. So now that we know that it's not the art tool that makes the artist, but the actual knowledge and understanding and ability to practice the fundamentals of art that make an artist great, there are some other considerations to think about when choosing the tool you'd like to make art with. #1, what is the end goal of the piece that you're trying to produce? It really depends. Like if this is going to be a digital piece scanned into the computer somehow and finished in the computer, maybe colored or whatever, then that's when it really doesn't matter what tool. Now, if you're trying to make a piece of artwork that is going to only exist mostly in a physical realm, or it's going to be used as something that is sold as the original art, the physical piece of art, then you're going to want to use some better tools. I mean, arguably, it might not be a good idea to use like a Bic pen or, so, even though there could be even fine art made with a Bic pen. But, you know, you might want to be a little more choosy depending on what you want your results to be. And if you want it to be more of an artsy type of style, or if you want it to be more of, you know, something that's more like a commercially finished piece of illustration. Which brings us to the next, number 2 consideration that you might want to use when choosing your tool. So the other thing is the style and the feel of it. You know, depending on what you're looking for the outcome to be, as far as like if you want kind of a looser style that's more sketchy, you might want to use a Bic pen. You know, maybe you want a style that's more fluid and you can get a more graceful line with nice line weights and things like that. You might want to use a brush also, you know, depending on how fast you want to do it. So there's all kinds of things. Like if you want a certain feel or you want a certain style, then the kind of tool you want to use is going to be part of it. Number 3, what are you most comfortable using? And, you know, it kind of also is related to this whole speed thing. If you're somebody who likes to work fast, or you might want to go with a brush, because you can get your line weights better and quicker with a brush sometimes, or some kind of brush style tip. Or if you want to go slower, or if you're just more comfortable working with something that's a little bit more rigid, where you have a little more control, then you might want to use the crow quills. You might want to use like a traditional crow quill pen tip that you dip, you know, into ink. Or, you know, you might want to use microns, you know, that way you get all the control that you could possibly want, you know. So it really depends on what you're comfortable with. Number 4 that you might want to think about before choosing which tool you're going to use is, do you feel the need to make a change? Have you been using the same tool for a long time and you've kind of gotten to the point where you're like, I'm not feeling as creative anymore. I'm kind of doing the same thing I always do, and I don't know, I just feel I'm almost starting to get a little rusty with this. It might be a good idea to change up the tool that you use. All right, so before we get into my top 3 favorite tools that I like to use when inking or drawing with ink pens, I just wanted to let you guys know that if you didn't know, I make comic books, as is the title of this YouTube channel, Marsh Makes Comics. And you can find those comic books at donkeyjawprojects.com/comics. There's free ones to read, and there's some that you can pay for a small amount of money and read as well. I just finished Corncob Rob in the Perilous Sky Ramp, which I'm really excited about, and that's going to go to print pretty soon. And yeah, there's all kinds of other stuff. I'm going to be showing some drawings here of my character Glyph, to kind of demonstrate my favorite pens that I like to use. So enough with that. Let's now get into the top 3. Well, I shouldn't say the top 3. My favorite 3 pens that I use. I use a lot of other pens too, but these are the 3 that get me really excited about making art. Now, this one here is literally the most common pen that you could find. And when I say, you know, which pen should you use? Well, the one closest to you. You know, this is often the pen that's closest to most people. And it's just a regular Bic ballpoint pen, and it could be any other brand. Bic just happens to be the most common one that I tend to come across, but any ballpoint pen will do. I mean, there are actually some that are better than others, but again, it doesn't matter. I use this as a sketching pen. I really enjoy using this kind of pen. Like I said, one of my favorite artists on YouTube, Cash, he uses a ballpoint pen a lot, and you know, it's one that anybody can afford, and I use this also just for sketching without any underdrawing. In fact, that's how I primarily use it. It's the only pen that really acts very similar to a pencil. And it's also really freeing to use this as a sketching implement as opposed to a pencil, because you know, when you're drawing with pencil, you have the eraser, and you don't have that, you know, with most Bic pens. You don't have that kind of capability. So it really gives you like a certain, it kind of frees you up to make mistakes and be okay with the mistakes you're making, and just kind of push forward. And now here's an oddball that you don't typically see. This one's called the Parallel Pilot pen. Or I guess it's made by Pilot or whatever. And you know, this was created, and there's 3 different sizes. I think mine is the medium size. But this was created for like calligraphy, kind of like a chisel tip for calligraphy effects, and you could do some really cool calligraphy things with it, but I like to use it as a drawing pen because it's like this messy, again, kind of sketchy, but kind of a messy style pen. Like you can make some really cool effects with it. In the beginning there, I showed kind of some of the weird lines you can get with it, and if you're into comic books at all, or you know, just different art and stuff, you might recognize those lines. They look similar to something like somebody like Jim Mahfood might use. It's not a common pen, I shouldn't say brush, but pen, but it is one that is used by a few artists, and I've enjoyed using it. I'm not as skillful as other artists are with it, for sure, but again, you know, I could get better at it, and it's just a fun pen to use. You can get weird different lines that you wouldn't, you know, normally get. And last but not least is the Pigma Sakura brush pen, I guess you would call it, specifically the fine tip, but there's 3 different kinds. There's the fine, the medium, and the big bold, I guess. I don't know exactly what the names are, but I typically, for the most part, I use the fine and sometimes the medium to kind of fill in blacks. You'll see me later here fill in the blacks with the medium version. But this is a really cool kind of alternative to a brush, using an actual brush, or like something like the Pentel Pocket brush pen. This brush is what I primarily do most of my comic book inking with generally these days. You know, and I'll kind of switch between that and the microns, you know, and they're both microns, and this are made by Sakura. So something that's really cool is they use the same kind of ink. So if you like the ink in microns, you know, you can go right to these and have a little bit of more of a brush feel to it. And again, like I said, there's more, you have like more control if you're not like as comfortable using something that has a lot more give, like the Pentel Pocket brush. The Pigma brush is really a good alternative, and I think it's more of like a plastic or felt tip, but it's flexible, so you can get some good line weights with it. But again, like I said, you have more control. Hopefully this was helpful for you. I mean, I did these kind of quick, so they're, you know, the more time you spend on any piece, it's going to be better and stuff like that, so that's part of it too. But you know, once again, you know, it's not about, you know, the tool, it's about the artist. We're all at different stages of development. So again, you know, just don't be so fixated on the tools. Be fixated on, you know, learning the fundamentals and getting better at your craft, and I think that'll take you that'll lead you into good places, you know. And so I encourage you to continue growing and building your skills, and hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully you guys got something from this, and you know, if you're interested in any of the tools I was talking about, all the tools that I really like are always in the comment section, or in the description below, so definitely check that stuff out. Other than that, I really appreciate you guys hanging out and checking out this video. Hopefully you guys dug it, and I will talk to you on the next video. All right, peace out.